somebody else said
Okay.
same thing to you probably at some point. Hello,
Hi. Good to see
got
you.
it.
Got
Hello,
it.
Jim Ruff.
Yes. Good
I'm,
fun.
I have not spoken with you in some years. And the last time I saw you was in person, I think. And I'm calling you now from a small island off the coast of Lombok, which is in Indonesia.
Wow.
And
Okay.
you're in a small island in Oregon, I understand.
Washington.
Washington.
Washington. Yeah. Yeah. Washington State. And it's not an island, it's a peninsula, but you got to get a ferry to get here, sort of. Yeah.
Well, great. I have some questions for you, and I would ask you to turn the recorder on so that other people could benefit from your wisdom.
Oh, okay. Good. Good, clean fun.
Good, clean fun. So, may I begin?
Sure.
What are you working on these days?
Well, I believe that I'm working on the Global Wisdom Council process. I believe that we're facing existential problems and that our current way of thinking about them is to break them into pieces and have everybody contribute to the pieces. And actually, there's one underlying problem, and it's the source for everything. And that's basically that our system no longer fits our situation. How do we transform the system? And I think I know how to do that. And so I'm just sitting here going through a lot of articles to see if there's anything else out there. And the only things I find are supplemental to or complementary to what the Wisdom Council process can do. So I'm busy trying to articulate how this, what I call the To Be project, could actually transform the global society and the culture and the economics and governance so that we could transform to the next system and at least salvage, become collectively intelligent. I guess that's the bottom line. So that's what I'm working on.
So, my research reveals that even back at the turn of the century, there was some 50 million cultural creatives wanting essentially the same as you, what you just described. And by now, my estimation, because the first estimation from the book by Ray and Sherry Anderson, something, okay.
Yeah.
They did not include Europe, for example, or Asia in their estimation of cultural creatives. And by now, I'm estimating around 300 million cultural creatives around the world on your side, wanting what you want. And it's a big enough force, a significant enough force to cause something different. And so I'm interested in your game plan. I mean, I think your theory, like I don't argue one even little bit with your theory at all. Zero. Found zero resistance to your theory. And what I want to know what your game plan is.
Yes.
How to roll this thing out, how to emerge it to scale.
Yeah, well, I've thought about the cultural creatives as well. To me, that is not the system. In other words, if you transform all the people in the system, you have not changed the system. That's by definition. The system is not the sum of the parts. So to me, what the game plan, and Clinton, I really appreciate you for calling and asking these questions. This is fantastic. I can't wait. I mean, I love sharing this with you. The game plan is the Wisdom Council process. We don't need a lot of people. We can just start it with a few people, with money, with some media connections. We don't even need anybody's permission from government, really. What we do in the Wisdom Council process is we randomly select just 12 to 16 people. That's all we need on the global scale. But we do it every month, different group. So from day one, when you randomly select just 12 people, on day one, you have the whole system in the room. It's a symbol. You have a symbol of everybody. In other words, we could take their picture. It's a little bit like taking the picture of Earth from space. We have a picture of this is what humanity looks like. Now, there's a lot of problems with assembling that group. We don't care how they do it, so we can just hire a firm or whatever and just say, do the best you can. Because what we want is a symbol of everybody. And we want to, and then the key piece is to facilitate and we have to pick an issue. Somebody has to pick an issue. Maybe the funders can pick the issue. And if we get, to gain money, I don't know. But anyway, we'll start with an issue like climate change or species extinction or the war in Ukraine, the war in Israel, whatever, or the war in Palestine. So they start with an issue, and the point of dynamic facilitation is our ability to facilitate a quality of thinking where impossible to solve problems can be solved. In other words, normally we have a process of thinking where we say, oh, like the Serenity Prayer, for instance, we decide ahead of time, oh, can't do anything about that, so we won't look at it. And yet, if you look around your room, every item you will identify was once an impossible to solve problem. Everything. So we know we solve impossible to solve problems all the time. And the key piece is the quality of thinking, which I call choice creating instead of decision making or problem solving. So the key is we take these 12 to 16 people, we put them in a room, we dynamically facilitate them for just 2 or 3 days, and they will emerge like this, pumped that they reached unity in some way, that they had through breakthroughs and shifts, they will have reached unity on this impossible to solve problem, whichever one we give them. And they'll be charged about, they'll be saying things like, well, how did we get these people together? They're so incredible. But the deal is it's facilitation. They don't know process. So, and then we march those people on stage, and we've assembled a large number of people, media people, philanthropists, I'm not sure who, but they then present their unified view, and they do it in a story fashion. They do it, in other words, we can dynamically facilitate the small group. Now, we're going to use this series of random wisdom councils to facilitate an ever larger system of people to be in the conversation. And when they present on stage, basically then Taylor Swift and the CEO of Exxon and whatever, they all meet in small groups and they talk, and their response is almost always, heck yeah, why aren't we doing that? Of course. In other words, the wisdom, the unified voice of this symbol will reach common sense. They'll reach the highest common denominator of the group. And now the experts and the other people we can organize government nations to visit, like through the UN or whatever, then they can respond to this voice of the people, of we the people. It actually becomes over time, we the people, which is the ultimate authority of anything. In other words, if all of us reach unity, there's really no higher authority. The Constitution isn't the high thing. The UN, there's no higher authority than all of us reaching unity. So here's a viable way, an accessible way that just a few of us can set this up. We don't need that much money. We can just I call it just us. We assemble just us. And then we facilitate, we randomly select people, and we try and build, of course, media attention. But it's okay to not get that much attention as we start. We can just start slow and keep moving. And then the first crisis issue, like a pandemic, comes along and everybody's upset about the mandates. Well, what they really need is some place to talk about it. It's a global process. And so each individual in the, all of us can now have a place to talk. We can talk among our friends. We talk about what the Wisdom Council said. We said, my gosh, no, they didn't quite get it right. This needs to happen. Or what, they didn't think about this, whatever. The point is that we want to have that whole system conversation. And the facilitator of that is the small groups that meet, because they've been dynamically facilitated, to the spirit of choice creating. And we want to export that spirit to a large whole system global conversation.
Thank you. Where are we now in this? I mean, you've been developing the language and the distinctions and the processes and the clarity for decades. And you tried different experiments in different places. And so where are we right now with this?
That's a great question. So, okay, 2 states of Austria have adopted the Wisdom Council process into their constitutions. But it doesn't, and it really shouldn't happen through government. It gives us credibility. And there's a number of people in Germany and Austria, and anybody that speaks German seems to be interested, it turns out. I don't know what it is. But so that's one thing, is that we have large system experience. And the nature of this beast is that it gets out of hand. In other words, the government wants to keep control. They want to say, we're in power. We want these people to just be a focus group. But it's not set up that way. So the Wisdom Council process is taking over, and the government people are resisting. They say, wait a minute, this is bigger than we didn't want to talk about this. We didn't want to bring this up, like land use planning, the one Wisdom Council picked. And they said, we've set aside these areas to be green. They're not to be touched. And the legislature goes ahead and turns them into, some corporation wants space, and they say, oh, here's some space for you. We'll just move that green part up to the mountains somewhere. And the people are unifying, saying, no, we don't want to do that. Thank you. So that's just an example of how it's taking, we've got this foothold in governments, in Austria and Germany. Germany now has just initiated a $2 million proposal to a bunch of consultants who mostly know dynamic facilitation, that won $2 million award to talk about climate change for 15 wisdom councils. So we've got a foothold in the government world, but there's no there's no client out there to hire or to work on global stuff. In other words, climate change, I'm sorry, the atmosphere is a global problem. It has to be addressed globally. And so the Wisdom Council process is a way to create that client. Here's we the people that can manage steward our planet. And so one of I'm doing 2 things. I call it Society's Breakthrough, because one is about global Wisdom Council process, and the other is national Wisdom Council process in the US. And so I'm really in the background trying to just write and articulate those into 2 books and into some videos, and basically to try and what I want to do is I want to start it with a conference, I guess, and maybe you have ideas or you can help, of the Moloch people. Are you familiar with this expression, Moloch?
No. Can you explain?
Yes. I'm jumping around, I apologize, but my term for the underlying cause for everything is the human predicament, because that's what Paul Ehrlich uses. But what's happening is that there's somebody, I'm blanking on the names, have resurfaced a ancient biblical god mentioned in the Bible called Moloch.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Kill your children in order to succeed. And that's what's happening for the individual in our society is we have to kill our highest values in order to become successful. I saw you you put a great cartoon out about the businessman standing there and saying, well, it's going to be really horrible in the future and everything, but there's great profit opportunity in the meantime.
Yeah. The run up, yeah.
So, yeah, I love that. So, but so Moloch is the business guy who's standing there realizing that he has to do that he doesn't have an option as an individual.
He has to do what? Oh,
Well, as an individual, you either have to get a job, which trashes the planet, and you have to buy stuff, or because the economy won't survive, or all this. We're all stuck in the grip of Moloch.
yeah, okay.
So I'm interested in, and there's a number of people that are talking about Moloch now, and they're saying, well, is there a solution? No, there's nothing we can do. And so they are feeling the desperation, and yet they don't have an answer. And so I want to gather, I think finally I found maybe an audience that I can talk to, is maybe that gathering of people. And really bright people.
Yes.
They're super at articulating the problem. So anyway, we get those people, some philanthropy people, and some people who understand the process that we're talking about right now, that this can work. And there's other pieces to add to this, like you talk about the cultural creatives, for instance, take advantage of that. So, but find that group to be dynamically facilitated for 3 or 4 days to come up with a plan and to kickstart this thing. Because I'm kind of off in a corner trying to just think this through. But this is an accessible way to do it. It doesn't take that much money. Just a few of us can start this, and it could grow. So that's the plan.
All right. Well, thank you. Let's assume that it has been thought through enough. Let's assume that that dimension of this strategy or game plan is complete. And so at this point, then, I mean, you've developed talents for thinking things through and communicating them as clearly as you can. And there's another talent set begging to be brought forth, which is rolling it out. So what would you need to roll this out?
Well, I think I don't know. I'm imagining the 3 groups coming together. We need some money. I don't know. I think it's just maybe $2-3 million would start. Okay. It'd be great to have some media contact. It'd be great to have some social networking people in our I call them just us, social medium people, and all kinds of people that, like yourself, that are just brilliant in all these different other ways that I can't foresee right now. But it seems to me that, like, I'm just reading an article today about somebody's proposal to get nations to come together. There's all this idea of the nations. If we can get these nations to come together and design some kind of global agency to make decisions and to analyze, because there's no client. If I went we rented a booth in December at the largest gathering of climate scientists, and we had in our booth a big sign that said, how to get humanity to act. And we thought every scientist walking by would be so excited and rush up to our booth. We didn't get it, that they're busy with their work. They can't even think that big. And we went to the other booths and we said, look, if there was an innovation that would get all of humanity to come together and act cohesively and intelligent, where would we take this innovation? Nobody had any idea. There's no client out there. There's no agency, global agency that can do anything. Well, we can create,
right.
yeah. So we can create that global agency, we the people. And then I was reading this article today and realized, well, then you can use what they're talking about, which is getting the nations together to respond to what the Wisdom Council says as a cohesive gathering of nation states. We don't have to ask them to give up power. We can just say, can you respond as a nation group, And or some, I was just trying to riff off what they were inventing. And I realized that I could probably take any article and have something contribute to this process, I think.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, our research has been, my research anyway, has been in parallel. Early in the early 2000s, discovering that every breakthrough I caused in a large corporation in a department in terms of relocating authority and unleashing incredible ingenious potential and shifting from this pyramid structure to a circle structure and giving them technologies for how to make it, how to handle emotional reactions in a circular structure and how to liberate this genius. And every time I did that, 3 or 4 times in large corporations, within a month, the corporation redesigned itself such that department no longer existed, and the employees were just spread all over the entire organization. So this is when I shifted out of trying to work with a hierarchical structure and moved into working in the circle, like we the people. Been working since the early 2000s in we the people, and empowering people to build up their own circles. So circles of circles, circles within circles, and in a parallel, we call it Taurus technology, but it's a whole similar parallel thing to we the people. It's giving people voice and clarity and the power to build game worlds, to build up new systems. Like you said, it's a system problem, and to invent new systems, invent and inhabit, prototype and reiterate, systems from the local authority and have that spread out. And of course, and this is working. It's working, and the comparison of our numbers to 8 billion people, for example, it's almost invisible in that way, except that we are working with the edge workers. We're working with the ones who, will be the next quote unquote leaders, the ones who are holding space for bigger things. And so the avoiding thinking that we could make a proposal to a hierarchical structure that's been captivated by psychopaths as a design error. It's a design error of hierarchies to be captured by psychopaths, and thinking that they would make any move that would have the benefit of humanity in their heart, and it's just foolhardy. It's just childish thinking. And so,
yeah.
And so, but the bringing the people together with such common sense and obvious things as just forbidding, mountaintop removal and ocean, scraping the bottom of the krill from Antarctica and just wiping out ecosystems left and right for this thing called profit, which is just fries away and frittered away in no time. It's imaginary anyway. It's like, okay, we're going down the wrong path, and there's so much intelligence and wisdom about the error of our ways and the possibilities that are alternative to choose from. And so, but the Wisdom Council and we the people is so clear. And so that's really why I wanted to talk with you, because I heard a rumor that you're replacing yourself, expanding your organization, something like this. Can you speak about that?
Well, there's too much here for me to do. There's too much work to need to be done. There's to me, there's like 5 levels of this. One is this quality of thinking, choice creating. It's it's a huge topic area. It's just it's too big for me to deal with, really. And then there's dynamic facilitation skills and problems. This is a reliable way to evoke this high level of thinking in a random group of people. And then there's the wisdom council process, which is how do we do that for very large systems or for large systems of people? And I'm saying, okay, I want those to succeed, and I will help support those as much as I can. But when I talk about doing this at the societal level versus for the nation or for the world, people don't come to me. They don't get it. They don't see the importance. To me, this either happens or we're fucked. That's the way I look at it. I don't see anything else out there that can deal at the systems level. So I'm just going to say, I want to hold my space, hold what I'm doing. I've got how many? I'm 77. I've got how much? I don't know how much time I've got. I've got to keep my focus on what I call society's breakthrough, the national and the global level. And so that's what I'm trying to do, is articulate that and lay it out. And as you're speaking, I realized the part of the answer to the last question that you gave me is that, yeah, there's a need for a network of people like you just described that are conscious, that are already there, that can start to pick up on this and to take it forward, like just starting to talk in communities about the issue. Because I don't what we want is some way for the spirit of choice creating to be held in the whole system conversation, so that you have this voice of the people, we the people, with agency, and that. But what we really want is involving everybody from different lands, people to be able to talk, and really, it's really a facilitative element that's out there, and we can do a lot of things to set the stage for this, because when the Wisdom Council process speaks, they speak a unifying voice. They're saying the same. It's like all this different. So the audience often picks up on that. Oh, we're not in that other conversation. The yes, no, I agree, disagree. We're not in that. We're in the one where we're building, trying to figure out what's even better. So we can do a little bit of that, and we help that happen by telling the story, for instance. So when the Wisdom Council comes on stage, they say, well, first we started here, and then we all thought, we're stuck, we can't do it. And then we thought, in other words, they share their breakthrough progress so that the audience can hear and carry that forward. But it really would be fantastic to have some highly conscious people holding space for the conversation, to be in a because what we want is it to be not the spirit of problem, of certainly not discussion, not even decision making, not deliberation, but we're co-creating something together, and where the next Wisdom Council benefits from the ongoing global conversation. So at first they might not say things very intelligently, but the experts speak, and they talk, in these groups throughout the world. And so we get a chance to learn, all of us, about what's really happening, and come to shared understandings about what is the truth, break down the media silos. What is the truth? What's our vision? What do we really want? And how are we going to get there? What's the strategy going forward? So, and to find themselves in a different kind of conversation than our current system establishes.
You've been training up dynamic facilitators.
Yeah, it's hard. What's happening is the people in Germany, actually Munich, have formed a community of people training dynamic facilitators and credentialing them and things like that. So that it's really there that it's happening. It's not happening. I mean, I've stopped training in that, and I'll do more if, I'll do one or two more or whatever, help people get better. But yeah, yeah,
So we've got dynamic facilitators.
yes,
So, and I think I think you've spoken clearly and powerfully enough, and written also, provided handbooks also, for people to be able to have the vision of how this procedure amplifies itself into the global stage.
yeah. That's what I'm kind of doing now. Actually, is really, Clinton. It's been awfully hard to get people to spark to the global and the national. I mean, I just can't. Everybody wants to say, "Oh, we have to start locally," local, 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 and it's like, I'm sorry, some of these problems are global. They'd have to be addressed at the global level, and so, but people. My theory is that when I talk about it, that at some unconscious level, people get it that they've formed an identity that's based in the system that we have. It works for the system of conversation. This works for the system of earning a living, of forming families, whatever it is. It works. And they form that identity, and they realize that at some level, hey, this is a death. I'm going to be threatened here. They can't identify anything of risk, but yet they're doing everything they can to throw up blocks and dismiss and to resist and to coach me about how I talk, or just all kinds of things, because they're just not. It's terrifying at the individual level, and yet there is zero that anybody has ever pointed to that can be even a concern about the Wisdom Council. We randomly select people, they give a speech, they go away. Tell me what the problem is. Where's your concern? Well, at some level, everybody gets it. This would change everything.
Yes. Yes. Yes, but that's the point, and that's the necessity. And as the urgency grows, it will intensify the necessity. So we have global warming at our back. We have collapsing ecosystems at our back. We have, everything: heat waves, storms, earthquakes. Yes. All this stuff comes out of global warming at our back. Okay. All right. So you and I have been building out infrastructure for next culture. And so this is what people can inhabit when they're finally willing to say, hey, what we've been trying isn't working at all. And they're desperate enough to try something else. And we've been designing and developing infrastructure for next culture that people can inhabit, and also training up space holders for the new institutions, for the new game worlds, for the ways people can interact. And this fears that you're talking about are very real, in my opinion. I think these fears are driving people to extinction, and they don't even recognize it, because the things that they're afraid of and dragging their feet about and stopping are precisely the things that are killing themselves. I mean, that could stop themselves from killing themselves. Like you said, the global condition is going to take out everybody, regardless of how many will not matter. And so, okay, so one of my interests in talking to you is locating those space holders for dynamic facility themselves up at the global level, to face, to present, to be in front of a camera, to be in a room, a space, those people. So I'm hoping at the end of the conversation to get a list from you of space holders for dynamic facilitation who are keyed into the global level of the game.
Okay. Well, that's hard to
so
do,
that,
actually.
so,
Yes.
so that we
There
can
are a
just
few,
support
yeah.
each other.
Yeah, there are a few people, and they're in, well,
Yeah.
not where you are. I can't even tell where you are, but you you used to be in Germany and Austria and whatever where the people are. But yeah, you know, there've got to be.
Yes.
I would
Well,
like to expose you guys to the process. That would be cool, and then you could be your own hub in a way.
mhm.
That would be, maybe that's what needs to happen.
Yeah.
And that would be exciting to find for,
Well,
because,
I've been through it with you.
well, you
We're
know,
going to be, we will
it's
be
really a
in,
3 day, it's really a 3 day seminar is what it is. Yeah. And I don't know
yeah,
that you haven't done that, have you?
I think so, but that was long ago in a galaxy far, far away. We've
Oh
got
yeah.
more people now, and we could bring them together in Europe. We'll be in Europe next summer.
Okay.
And so it would be straightforward to bring our space holders into that space. And we're really in total resonance with the dynamic facilitation space holding, the way it goes to choice, choice creating rather than decision making, And
Yes.
we've got technologies to support it in terms of ways to approach problems and solutions, kind of thing like that. So it goes right along with it. So, but what I've found is the development of a person's inner structure to the point where being in front of a camera, in a room of 5,000, 10,000 people, whatever, it takes a bit to train people up for that. And so without that, we we're not using the leadership metaphor, because leadership creates followership. So we're not training leaders, we're training space holders, but still space holders need an inner structure, inner matrix, and they need certain level of gremlin handling skills and the global vision and the wisdom council methodology. And so I think it would be a great thing to come together this summer in Europe, or we'll be in Poland mostly, but
Okay.
somewhere there, not too close to the front lines of whatever war is happening, and have
Yeah,
a
that's
training,
right.
a gathering, a training.
It's
And
so hard to be confronted
it
with
sounds like,
collective stupidity. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
yeah,
interrupt. There's a little delay, so it's hard.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, it is our part of our job. However, it's part of our job to face that and have our minds blown and be amazed at the incredible potential of human incompetence, like the gifts that we've been given and are squandering at such a high rate right now.
It's terrifying. Yes. Yes. And I don't know, but I mean, I just beat myself up for not going faster, not doing more. I want to watch a football game, or I want to, take a hike, a bike ride, or whatever. And it's like, God, I got to get back to work. It's so well. I really like this idea, Clinton. I hope this can work.
Okay.
And I can
Yeah.
turn you on to some people in Europe, and I can come to Europe too. That would be the other idea. Are people talking? They talk
Okay.
English? Is your group talking English
Yes. Yes.
mostly? Okay,
Mhm.
because I
Yeah. Yeah. We're
otherwise.
we're a global organization, and
Okay,
English is the language.
okay, because I can other people
Mhm.
that can do this, and maybe they'll join me also, but they speak other languages as well. So that, which I'm only a one language person at this point. So
Mhm.
I think that
So,
would be
well,
great.
all right. So we'll work that out logistically on the side while we're running the tape. I'd be interested to just ask you if you have any other sort of game world needs, or how you think it could, how would it roll out once you have kind of agreement? There's this, like you said, it's like the common people can look around and with no time go, hey, this can't happen like that, and this has to happen like that, and it's that straightforward. And then there's this shift of like people are going to jobs in a corporation that they don't realize are building equipment for tanks over in Ukraine. So they're a part of the war effort, and they come home and they feel glad about themselves because they have a paycheck, and they're doing war. And when they wake up about it and go, geez, I don't actually want to build war weapons for blowing up and making profits for our corporations, psychopaths. I don't want to do that anymore. What else can I do? And we've been working on that end of the question for a long time about how can a person shift out of a materialistic orientation towards life to recognize their own non-material value and to develop and have a place for a way to provide their non-material value to the village. Yes. And I just want to tell you about another breakthrough that we've had recently over the summer, which is my partner, in many ways, Dimensions, and Chloe Destremo, was holding space for a Women of Earth lab this summer in Portugal with 37 women or something. And they had a breakthrough discovery, which was when you bring women together and they rage together, when women rage together, they are designing a sane culture. They're designing next culture. Because what they're angry about is everything that needs to change and what needs to work better. And they figured that out. They realized it. And so out of, after 3 days of raging together and exiting the patriarchy, they emerged in archaearchy, the next culture, and with teams and groups and projects. It was like that fast. And so we'll be implementing. She's going to deliver more of these labs in Brazil and other places. And the liberation of and the application of conscious rage for designing the next culture is really a parallel process to what you're saying. When people say, hey, this can't happen, that's rage. Like that. What were you going to say?
Well, I think the way I feel about that, as you're building the people, obviously we need to deal with each level of the hierarchy,
Mm-hmm.
We need people with consciousness in order to hold space for, I call it facilitating, facilitate, or DFing really is what we call it, because it's really a kind of DFing. But in that, I think it's great to work on the culture change, but to me, the culture is restrained by the system. In other words, these people are going to work because the economic system requires that of them, and they are stuck in the Moloch situation. And to have them become conscious at some large scale, it really it just puts them in an awkward situation. It just makes it painful, more painful. To me, the issue is, if, as I see it, the wisdom structuring to set up an ongoing wisdom council process is you and me and your community and whatever, just us, restructuring the underlying structure of society. That is the structure. And out of that structure,
yes.
Like, for instance, we watched Napoleon last night, the movie. I don't know. You've seen
well.
It. Okay. It was fun to get an experience of how that must have been. But, when you have the hierarchical structure, then you just stand there and shoot, and the other guys turn, they shoot, and they shoot you, and you're dead. And, that if you or I, were there, we're from a different system. We're not going to do it. We're going to say, getting on the ground or something. Getting out of here. I don't want to shoot these people. There's an independent thinking that was not available to the triangle in the his language, it was the traditionalists, I think, and the modernists, and then the cultural creatives. I call them the triangles, the boxes, and the circles. But, the triangles are out there. They've been enculturated by the system.
Mm-hmm.
And we now live in the box system. That is our system. At least in the democracy world, some of the other countries have the triangle system. There has to be, in order to get to the circle system, dynamical system, if you will, we have to restructure it. And the restructure, we can do that. We us can do that, because what we're setting up is the ongoing whole system choice creating conversation.
Yes.
Global choice creating conversation. That is the ultimate structure, because when you look around and realize, well, fuck, there's no higher authority here. We are the boss over nations, and I appreciate diversity, because we never would have gotten here without that diversity. We have to have diversity if we're going to be creative. So the whole nature of things changes, and what you're doing is paving the way for that to happen, and for people to hold space for that to happen. And
yes.
So that's what I say. And part of what we are doing as facilitators is we're hanging on to new language. And you've invented a whole fucking what's the word? A lot.
Called the distinction
a lot of language. Yes.
Yes.
Anyway, but I, like, for instance, you said to get people to agree. I would never use that word. Agree. Agree is the old conversation, discussion. You use to agree or disagree, either one. What they reach is you have to find a language or create it. I use the word unity or unified view or something. I just keep because we got there through some kind of creative leap, not through agreeing.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So,
like through unification. So look, one of the fun things about what we've been discovering is that people are learning how to quit their jobs and walk out. And more and more and more people are just walking out, quitting their jobs, getting out of these high-end expenses, going, taking off the baggage. They're becoming nomadic, they're simplifying, and in reality, and really it's a grieving process. Just last night we had this call. He's sobbing away, he's just sobbing at the books that he got rid of because he loved these books, but he's done with them. Somebody else can read them. His clothes he got rid of, somebody else can use them. And it's things that when it's okay to feel, then it's okay to grieve, debaggaging. And then people are exiting the structure of modern culture and discovering that there are people all over the world where they can be with and travel with and learn with and study with, and they're creating bridge houses. So they're creating places where people come together and set the context in this choice creating context, this invention context, this ongoing creation and invention context, even in a relationship level, not just in daily life, but also in person to person relating. It's this creation level. And it's so inspiring and so motivating. Like, it's so nurturing to be in this creation space rather in a survival space, rather than trying to earn enough money to live. It's so rewarding that it's just kind of catching on fire. So that part is really working.
Well, I think it does work. The key is that we have a system. It's anchored in place. If everybody quits their job, somehow we lose the economy, and there's a lot of forces out there that's going to make sure that the economy keeps growing, and they'll get immigrants, they'll get whatever. I mean, the system itself has to be changed. And that will happen. That actually happens if we have this ongoing conversation where it's a whole system conversation. That's a new economic system, because now we have a shared vision we're trying to accomplish. In the old box system, we rely on the invisible hand of Adam Smith. Somehow you pursue your happiness, I'll pursue my happiness and everything's going to work out and we're going to have collective intelligence at the whole. Well, now we can't do that. It doesn't work that way because we're interdependent. So that's breaking down. But we're still stuck in that system. How do we unstructure that system so that it can, so that that we as a whole global society can shift to this stewarding the planet and rewarding people and using the economy, I don't want to use the word resources, but using the working with the planet as a living part of a system. And it takes that kind of independent thinker to hold on to that, to know that, it seems to me, that's an okay place to be.
Mm-hmm. When you say change this, the system itself, you're coming down to laws. And we've just opened up this space called Arkan Law. And it's open, it's based on universal jurisdiction, which means that even if you're living in a country that has a certain legal system, but you do something that tips things towards ecocide, for example. Anybody in any country can take you to a court case, to law, because there's universal jurisdiction, because like you said, has a global effect. And so Arkan Law is based on universal jurisdiction. So for example, Putin has a warrant out for his arrest from the International Criminal Court because of the child trafficking that he's been doing into Russia from Ukraine. And all we need now is a bounty hunter. We just need a bounty hunter to bring him in, because he goes around with his guards, and but he's already got the warrant on his head. And so this is the universal jurisdiction thing, and this is one way to change the laws.
That's good. I mean, these are all these different ways. To me, the box system is characterized by laws. That's how we make collective decisions, laws, policy. That needs to go into second place instead of first place. If we have this whole system conversation, a lot of those laws can just go away. They aren't that important anymore, because we're all operating from intrinsic motivation. We're trying to figure out, we're concerned about the planet and how do we work with it. It's no longer, I no longer get good vibes from being way richer than everybody else. I now feel embarrassed by it. It's a change of the culture. It's a change of the laws, the governance system. We don't have a governance system globally, and it's a change of the economic system, because we can't do exponential growth. I'm sorry, it's not going to work on a finite planet. It just can't do it. So how is it possible for us to use our smarts and our genius and everything to be serving a goal that works for the whole, for the living planet and all the people? We have to turn all our energies and to be working in that direction, rather than hanging on to my pursuit of happiness and your pursuit of happiness, and assuming collective intelligence is gonna come out of that. And pursuit of happiness, of course, is profits when you talk corporate. So to me, the need, I think it's really, really important to improve the given system that we've got. That is key. But there's also this other piece of how do we transform the system so that we're not doing that anymore. And that's the part that I'm most excited about.
Yeah, because I'm excited about the same thing, because if one is afraid of breaking the law, if one is afraid of a law that is exterminating life on Earth at the fastest possible rate, that law, anybody who follows that law is criminally insane. And anybody who enforces the law has already forfeited their life. And so recognizing that puts you into a different system at the individual level. Every time, if I recognize that, I'm functioning at a different set of laws.
Yeah.
And
nice.
so these are the laws of archaearchy.
Okay.
And
good.
so,
Yeah.
yeah. And so and it starts off with a whole different basis where you're speaking from one culture, you're talking to a person of a different culture. Do the laws of my culture apply to you? Oh, you don't think so? Then why do you think the laws of your culture would apply to me?
Yeah.
And they don't. They do not.
Yeah.
And so here you have a sudden liberation from that entire encrusted, based on assumptions that are false assumption system that are actually suicidal, ecocidal.
Yeah.
Okay, that thing will fall off like a snake skin when what's emerging is a person in a different set of laws. And those laws are based.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, I'm not sure that's the truth. I keep coming back to the structure of things, to twist the structure so that what you're teaching can emerge in a way.
Yeah, but that system is designed to resist change.
Yeah.
With cans of pepper spray and batons and plastic shields. It's designed to defend itself. So going against it is going against Buckminster Fuller's wisdom. You're not going to change things by fighting the existing game worlds.
Yeah.
So what we've been inventing is the next game worlds. Where are the baseball players? Where are the people going to play this game? And that's the question, is they've been sent to school for 14 years and they've all had their authority taken away from them, and they should follow rules and sit in rows and take notes and try to earn enough money to survive and stay afraid their whole lives. And that's where they are. And so this is where the liberation of people's own authority is so important to me, because then they're the ones who can just step aside and hold space for the next space, the next situation.
Yes. No, that's really true, I think. Yeah. That's nice. How you, I mean, I know how well you can describe things. I mean, I've seen you in your seminar situation. I went to a 2-day event of yours, and it was wonderful. I think it was 2 days, but it was really good. It was really I benefited immensely. And I remember one time there was an opportunity for a volunteer to jump in the seat, and Jesus, I was right in line. I pushed the girls out of the way and just jumped right in. I got the benefit of the master in that case.
Yeah, well, we've gotten even better since then, because we duplicate ourselves and replace ourselves.
I know.
So
way cool. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to be older and feel like, okay, I'm losing it. I have to hurry up with this stuff.
Yeah. Well, look, why don't we leave it at this?
Okay.
And do some logistics on this side, and we'll work out next summer, have a thing.
Sounds great. It sounds great. Use the video in any way you want, that's fine. And I put it to the cloud, so you should be able to just access it, I think.
Good. If you just give me a link, then I can do that.
Okay.
Right.
Good.
Well, Jim, thanks for this conversation.
I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Can't wait.
I get so excited when you can just talk to me about society's breakthrough. I'm just excited. Words are tumbling out of my mouth, and it's just really, it's a great gift that you've given me tonight. Thank you.
Thank you for your work. See you around.
Yes. Okay, good. Thanks.
Okay.
All right.